All right, today we are diving into some really fascinating research that connects two worlds you probably wouldn't think belong together. The global fight against a pandemic and, well, the incredibly high-stakes world of nuclear emergency preparedness.
Yeah, I know, it sounds a bit like a sci-fi movie plot, right? But the question is very real. Could the exact same kind of technology that we use to track a virus also be our best line of defense against radiation? Let's dig in and see how a simple public health app might just hold an unexpected blueprint for the future of nuclear safety.
So to understand how this is even possible, we need to rewind a little bit, back to a tool that a lot of us got very familiar with during the pandemic. We're going to start with the story of Malaysia's National Digital Health Platform.
It was called My Sejahtera, and it quickly became this central piece of the country's crisis management. People used it for everything, from health self-assessments to contact tracing. But the real magic, the thing that made it so powerful, was the AI humming away behind the scenes.
See, My Sejahtera wasn't just a dumb database collecting information. It was analyzing it with some pretty sophisticated AI. It could actually forecast future infection trends. Think of it like a weather report, but for the virus. It used algorithms to pinpoint outbreak hotspots before they exploded. And, get this, it could even scan social media to understand what people were feeling and thinking to fight back against misinformation. This was a totally proactive, data-driven way to handle a public health crisis.
Okay, now let's completely switch gears. We're going to pivot from a crisis we all live through to one we hope we never have to, a nuclear incident. Because as you're about to see, the way we typically prepare for something like that, well, it often feels like it's stuck in the past.
And the gap between the two is just stark. It's huge. On one side, you have this modern pandemic response that's predictive, it's adaptive, and it's all running on real-time data. On the other side, traditional nuclear emergency systems. They often have to rely on fragmented data, slower communication channels. They are fundamentally reactive, not proactive. They're waiting for something to happen, then responding.
And it's exactly this gap, this disconnect, that leads us to the central, really powerful idea behind all of this research. What if we could actually bridge that gap?
So here's the proposal. What if we take the proven AI-powered playbook from the pandemic and just apply it to a nuclear emergency? It's basically using a system that was designed to track a biological threat to instead track and predict a radiological one.
So what would this actually look like in practice? I mean, what would an AI-powered nuclear response system really do? Let's break down some of the key applications.
First up, and this is absolutely critical, is predicting the path of a radioactive plume. The system would just be constantly ingesting this stream of data, from radiation sensors, weather satellites, and even historical data from past incidents like Chernobyl. Then, AI models, the same kind of models used to predict COVID waves, would forecast that plume's trajectory, giving authorities a vital head start to issue targeted, effective evacuation orders.
But of course, in any crisis, there's a second threat, one that spreads just as fast as the physical one: misinformation. Fear and rumors can just flood social media, creating panic at the exact moment when clarity is what's needed most.
And this is where something called natural language processing comes in. Just like it did during the pandemic, the AI can scan social media in real time. It can perform sentiment analysis to get a read on public anxiety, and it can use topic modeling to see what specific things people are worried about. Are they talking about iodine tablets, shelter locations, evacuation routes? This lets authorities directly address those concerns and surgically debunk misinformation.
Okay, the next step is understanding that in a nuclear incident, the risk isn't the same for everyone. Just like with COVID-19, some people are way more vulnerable than others. AI can help create personalized risk profiles to manage all of this.
So to do this system would calculate an individual's risk by weighing several key factors. Proximity to the incident, that's obviously the biggest piece of the puzzle, right? But it would also look at the potential pathway of exposure and personal vulnerabilities, like your age or if you have pre-existing health conditions.
And all that data would then feed into a scoring system that divides the population into different risk categories. And this is the real game changer here. It lets authorities prioritize their resources. They can direct medical care, supplies, and attention to the people who need it most instead of just taking a one-size-fits-all approach.
Now I know, this all sounds incredibly promising. But repurposing a health app for a nuclear scenario, well, it is not a simple copy and paste job. There are some massive hurdles to overcome here. For starters, data from a nuclear event is way more complex and messy than health data. Then you have the huge privacy and security concerns over all this sensitive location and health info. But, maybe the single biggest challenge is the human one, getting decision makers to actually trust an algorithm in a life or death situation. That's going to require transparency, clear rules, and making sure a human is always in the loop for the big calls. And on top of all that, radiation doesn't respect borders, so this has to be an international effort.
And this really brings us to a fundamental question for our time, doesn't it? When the stakes are at their absolute highest, do we trust human intuition, or do we trust the cold, data-driven recommendation of an algorithm? The answer, as you can imagine, is not simple at all.
One really cool potential solution that kind of tackles both the privacy and the collaboration problem is a technique called federated learning. Okay, think of it like this. Instead of every country sending its secret sensitive data to one central AI brain, the learning model itself travels to each country's data. It learns locally, and then it only shares the lessons it learned, not the private information itself. It's a way for nations to build a smarter AI together while keeping their most critical data safe and sound.
So what this all really boils down to is this. The technology that we built to navigate a global pandemic might have, completely by accident, given us a blueprint for preparing for other huge, large-scale threats. It's just a powerful reminder that sometimes the solutions to our biggest challenges are kind of hiding in plain sight. Which leaves us with one final thought. Is the future of disaster response already in our pockets?